I know you made a video about this pretty recently, but I wanted to talk that through because I think that is when people ask that shit about what kind of camera do I need? And it's like, that's not the right question, but you can read between the lines that that's just them feeling like they're an imposter if they don't have that.
100%.
How do you think about getting over that? We've worked with a lot of people, you've worked with even more people than I have. How do you help somebody get over that? What do they need to get past that?
Yeah, I think the first thing is understanding that everybody, no matter who they are, where they are, feels that way, right? I feel that way all the time, literally. I think I'll go through periods of high productivity where I'll film 8 videos in a month and get them all out. And then I go through periods of 2 months where I'm just like, I don't feel right doing this. I go through with LinkedIn literally all the single time. I think that's where I feel the most imposter syndrome. I'll probably delete a quarter of what I end up posting on LinkedIn because of the reactions, because of it didn't really do that well. Should I really be doing this? This doesn't feel like who I am. It feels out of character for me. It feels very fake. It feels very cheap. And a lot of people go through it. Again, context, I know we talk about this company a lot, this company Jeter, one of the things that I'm pushing on them now is to think bigger about their content, right? And to really tap into that lifestyle vein, right? I think we talked about this last time, like the Nelk Boy style content. They just had Elon Musk on their podcast, and got like 10 million views, whatever. But even them, who built a $150 million revenue company in 3 years, don't feel like they are like those dudes, and they're not comfortable going on the entrepreneur style podcast. They're not, imagine, right? And we sit here and think about it. So I think part of it is just accepting the fact that it's part of being human, and that's part of having a human brain. It's never something that you get over. But I think the biggest thing is there's a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F***, pardon my French, that's literally what it's called. Probably one of the best books that I think any creator, I have one back here too.
You saw me looking on my shelf.
Yeah.
I don't have that one here, but I have the Everything is F***.
Yeah, I've read that one too. And then there's another one, it's right here. It's called Unfuck Yourself. Super, super, super good books. And basically what they talk about is just how a lot of what everything comes down to is that people aren't really paying attention to you as much as you think. Everyone is a star of their own movie in their own lives, and people throwing stones on the internet or passing by, or again, relating to the camera situation, you not feeling like my setup isn't nice enough or my material isn't good enough. I think what you have to understand is that people are at all stages in their journey in terms of where they want to learn from. And something that always motivates me is that just because I'm not where I want to get to, there's a lot of people that I can help that are a little bit behind me or where I'm at now, right? And that's a very important part of the journey as well. And I think that especially people who are just getting started with content creation feel like they don't have a voice because they haven't had a certain level of success, because they see people like Hormozy, who's like starts every video with, oh, I have a $150 million cash portfolio company, therefore I can film something in a fucking tank top and none of this
with his breathe right strip on.
Yeah, exactly.
I fucking love it.
Yeah. But I think that you have to understand that even if you're a beginner, when I got started doing this 10 years ago, the stuff I was talking about was very basic and very beginner, but like I picked up an audience because there were a lot of people that were one step behind, and that was very helpful to them. So I think getting over it, first of all, is just realizing that it's human. We all deal with it. Even the people at the very tip top of the game who make so much money and have had so much success, an imposter in a certain number of ways, because everyone's always looking ahead. The guys that I'm referring to are looking to be $1 billion company. So they're looking at like the Elon Musk of the world and comparing themselves to them, which is where a lot of this come from, is just comparison, right? So some of these books that we just recommended, I think are incredibly helpful because it just puts you in the mindset of understanding that nobody really gives a fuck about you. Everyone cares about themselves. And at the end of the day, the thing that motivates me to fire up the camera or to get back to work is the fact that my family is not where I want them to be. I'm not where I want my family to be at. There's so much that I want to do to set ourselves up. That's what motivates me. So kind of tapping into what that motivational piece is, I think it's important for everyone to understand that. But never feel like you're not good enough, because there's plenty of people that you can still help that are maybe one step behind you, 2 steps behind you, or just getting started. But it's human nature for us to always look forward and compare ourselves to somebody ahead of us and feel inferior because of the people that we look up to and we want to emulate ourselves after. But at the end of the day, it's not the right way to do things, but it's human nature. That's why Instagram ruins us for the most part, mentally, because we're always comparing ourselves to other people.
That comparison trap is very real. I know a lot of people come into Blueprint and they're like, well, I don't have any, I'll show them. They're like, how do I do my website? And it's like, look, we have this kind of way that Growth Sprints is the best example of it. It's 3 pages, but it's technically really only 2 pages. It's so minimal. Yeah, but you got a bunch of up and to the right graphs. Yeah, but everybody has their first one. Everybody has a first up and to the right graph. And if you don't have it yet, that's fine. You'll get there. But I didn't just have those. We talked about it in the first episode. I've been in this a minute to get all, and I have 8 on there, and it's been over 8 years. There's a piece to that. And I wrote down too, you mentioned, I think that this imposter syndrome and this fear of standing out, that it comes from keeping us alive. Like it's left over in our some sort of like primal brain of, if I stand out too much and I go too far, I get kicked out of the tribe and I can't survive alone, I'll die. So I just stay just below and cruise because it's a survival technique, but it doesn't serve us anymore. The other thing you mentioned, Hormozi, and I listened to a podcast with him recently, and I never heard him talk about this. Like, I think after a while you follow somebody for a minute, you kind of like get the whole thing. And there's still stuff that I learned from that dude on YouTube and all other places. But like, he talked about his dad, and I'd never heard him talk about his dad before. And he has had a fucking rough go of it with his relationship with his dad. And he like went in and he's like, all this is fueled because I hate my father. I was trying to, with money, kill my dad. And I was like, that's fucking rough. And he's lost his whole business 2 times. But I think, again, even on that podcast, well, you know, he literally said, well, I'm not Andy Frisella. I'm not Gary Vee. Even he has his own level of shit of like, well, I'm not them. You just had like a $40 million exit from a company or whatever it was. And you still are comparing yourself up to these other people. So I think you're right, man. It doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't go away. And I think it's also important to remember too that money, success doesn't fix these innate human problems that we have, or these feelings of inferiority. And I think sometimes it can just make it worse. You know, I can't tell you that I feel more comfortable now creating and speaking. I get it all the time, man. I'm telling you, there's times when I'm running this company Blueprint. We're teaching these companies how to make $1 million, but how am I teaching people when I don't even feel like my company is where it needs to be? Yeah, it doesn't matter because we are helping people and we have the system, we have the process to get to that point. I'm not saying here's how to make $100 million. You know, that would be way out of character and that'd be way uncomfortable.